The West London Orbital is a proposed line of the London Overground to run from Hounslow and Kew in the southwest to Hendon and West Hampstead in the northwest, utilising a freight line. Ever since the last major expansions to the Overground in 2015, with the Lee Valley and Emerson Park lines becoming Overground lines, and the Barking Riverside extension of 2022, there have been major talks over the years to commence work on the West London Orbital, and with another consultation expected, I think, I felt like it was about time to look at this proposal in detail. The genesis to this project came in the form of orbital tube lines and various light rail schemes, with one of them being the North and West London Light Railway, but this didn't happen. It wasn't until a few years later that the West London Alliance came together and started proposing to introduce passenger rail services along the Dudding Hill Freight Line and sections of the North London and Hounslow Loop lines to improve orbital connectivity across West and Northwest London without major tunnelling. This scheme received a lot of support from TfL in 2019, who released a strategic outline business case to this project, with it being updated in 2021, looking into how this line could envisage over 15,000 new homes and 11,000 new jobs being created, and taking 650,000 cars off the road annually. So now that we have a history of how this proposal came to be, let's look at the route of this new line. Starting with the two northern branches, one of them would terminate at Hendon Station. Situated on the busy Midland Main Line, this station sees Thameslink trains every 15 minutes or more for most of the day. The station has 4 platforms, with the northern pair used by stopping trains, fast Thameslink and EMR services using the middle pair, and the lines in grey being the freight line, which have no platforms at Hendon. The Overground would use these tracks and head south to the next station at Brent Cross West, where 2 new platforms would be built for the Overground trains, and then they would turn south using the Brent Curve. For context, this is a new station that opened back in December 2023 and sees Thameslink trains every 10 to 15 minutes. The station serves the now under construction Brent Cross Cricklewood development, with multiple high-rises slated to house 6,700 people. The Overground trains would use the lines where this freight train is going and would then turn south. Now let's look at the southern branch, which would terminate at West Hampstead. The West London Orbital trains would terminate at the Thameslink station and would provide interchange with the Mildmay Line Overground and Jubilee Line stations at West Hampstead, and multiple bus connections can be accessed here as well. If the West London Orbital was built, I am sure that the current naming system for the Overground will work here, as passengers can distinguish which station to go to for their respective line. Cricklewood Station is next, and this is the final Midland Main Line station on the West London Orbital. Currently seeing local Thameslink trains every 15 minutes, the Overground would also promote redevelopment in this area, as it is part of one of London's opportunity areas, and the services would use these tracks on the right. The line would then turn to the south using the Cricklewood Curve, and merge with the Hendon branch in Gladstone Park. Speaking of which, let's head there now. And this bridge here crosses over the railway line that will be part of the Overground. And it's this one here, the Dudding Hill Freight Line. There's a little signal box there, which is called Dudding Hill Junction. And basically this is where the line will split into two, with the left line going towards Brent Cross and Hendon, whereas the one on the right will head to West Hampstead via Cricklewood. And you notice that the right track is elevated. And I don't know if there are any freight trains expected. I'll just show you what this side looks like. Just pretty much serenely curves to the west. There is a semaphore signal in the distance, because the line is still controlled by semaphores, but in order for this line to become part of the Overground, there will need to be some electronic signalling, or some sort of automatic signalling. Passenger rail service was withdrawn in 1902, along with all of the stations on the line closing due to low passenger numbers. As part of this project, the line would be electrified and receive coloured light signalling, replacing the ancient semaphore signalling. Unfortunately, there won't be a station in or near Gladstone Park, as Dollis Hill Station does the job fine already, but there will be a new station at Neasden. The first new station on the Dudding Hill line would be located on Neasden Lane, but south of the existing tube station, and the new Overground station would provide interchange to the Jubilee Line station at Neasden, as well as several bus routes linking the nearby industrial estate. Interchange between the two stations could probably be a Hackney Central Hackney Downs walkway, but a bog standard OSI would be fine by me. Having this station built would also unlock redevelopment around both stations, with around 14,000 new homes, 2,000 of which would be built around the stations. A complete rebuild of Neasden Tube Station is a must, however, as it is a pretty bad station at the moment due to its small size, but with the redevelopment planned, more people would be using the two stations. After passing the Taylors Lane power station, the line would approach the next station at Harlesden. This station would provide interchange with the Lioness Line to Euston and Watford Junction and the Bakerloo Line. Like Neasden, the West London Orbital station would be on a separate site across the road. So I'm standing on this road and the current Harlesden station is over there, but the West London Orbital station will be around where this bridge is. That is the Duddinghill Freight Line, and where the West London Orbital will be. It will be along this track, which is currently only used by freight trains. It would most likely be on the site of the former Harlesden for West Willesden and Stonebridge Park station, which closed in 1902. The Overground line would then cross over the West Coast Main Line and the Grand Union Canal, before it reaches what is probably the most infamous station being constructed, Old Oak Common. The West London Orbital won't serve Old Oak Common directly, but according to this map, it's likely that it will use a separate station known as Victoria Road, with two Mildmay Line branches also serving Old Oak Common with stations of their own, Old Oak Common Lane and Hythe Road. All of these stations would create a massive interchange to the Great Western Main Line and an expanded Elizabeth Line, with journey times to Heathrow Airport, for example, being under 10 minutes. The stations would also connect with the infamous and now severely delayed HS2. The new stations at Old Oak Common would create a Western multimodal hub, allowing for redevelopment to take place, bringing around 25,000 new homes and 56,000 new jobs. Now with two different routes between West Hampstead and Old Oak Common, the West London Orbital can significantly help in relieving overcrowding along the existing Mildmay Line and at the Willesden Junction interchange. Now this next section primarily relates to frequency, as it tends to be undecided. According to TfL, they state that the West London Orbital section between Acton and Neasden should get around 4 to 6 or even 8 trains an hour, with 4 trains an hour expected on the individual branches. However, this frequency cannot be implemented now because of the section between Old Oak Common and Acton. The Mildmay Line's Richmond frequency is limited to 4 trains an hour because of several level crossings, not to mention that the line carries a lot of daily freight trains. If a frequency increase were to happen, I could see 3 options. Upgrade each level crossing, close them all together, and replace them with pedestrian footbridges or underpasses, or remove the level crossings and rebuild the nearby stations. However, I think closing the crossings would be detrimental to direct journeys, particularly by the bus routes on Bollow Lane. If both crossings were closed, one of the access roads to Chiswick Business Park would be inaccessible to road traffic and buses. Closing Churchfield Road in Acton may work, considering it's a narrow street, but due to the excessive car usage I've seen, and with the road traffic possibly increasing if we diverted all the cars to the high street, it would only provide marginal benefits to the roads and almost nothing being given to rail passengers. Upgrading each crossing to match the upgraded frequency would be cheap, but level crossings are still unbelievably dangerous due to them sometimes being misused or being the site of many accidents. If we want to prevent this, that leaves only one option I see fit: grade separation. Cities in Australia have already proved that this separation is possible by just raising or lowering rail lines above or below streets. But doing so in a constrained space like Acton Central would be costly and extremely disruptive, despite the benefits being excellent long-term, notably the case for frequency, as it can be increased significantly without having to clog up the roads for at least 10 minutes. So I would say that grade separation is the best option, benefiting the railway's management, pedestrians and road users. Anyways, moving away from frequency and level crossings, the West London Orbital would share tracks with the Mildmay line, with the next stop being Acton Central, the station where the power change occurs from overhead to third rail power, or the reverse if going the other way. The community is already well established and densely populated, but the current 4 trains an hour service is less than ideal, so a frequency increase to at least 12 trains an hour is always welcome. The next station on the West London Orbital would be South Acton, also served by the Mildmay line and the junction for trains to Richmond and the freight line to the Hounslow Loop. Having high frequency thanks to the West London Orbital would provide better access to the Chiswick Business Park area and would relieve pressure on the existing Gunnersbury station. So here's the North London line level crossing on Bollow Lane, but if I turn the camera this way, on the same road, just there, that's another level crossing, and that will be the one that the West London Orbital uses. The line would then head towards Kew, stopping at 2 stations in the area. One of these would be Kew Bridge, located here, and would provide interchange with the existing South Western station and Lionel Road. So I'm near Kew Bridge station, which is over there, and looking down here, this is another alignment, and it's entirely certain that the West London Orbital will use this track pair in order to terminate some trains short from Hounslow. And I mean, it's going to be difficult because it's a curved platform and, you know, limits the accessibility. But the abandoned platform is still there, and it's behind the G-Tech Community Stadium, or the Brentford FC. And there will be another station just behind the stadium, known as Lionel Road, which will directly serve the stadium. But I really don't know how they'll build platforms there, simply because it's a very constrained space. This is the first station where the West London Orbital joins up with the South Western Railway network, and the first station to be located in the Great West Corridor Opportunity Area, which aims to deliver 7,500 new homes and 14,000 new jobs by 2041. Speaking of which, our next station in the Great West Corridor is Brentford. This station currently sees 2 trains an hour by South Western Railway on services between Waterloo and Weybridge, and is the nearest station to a part of the Great West Corridor known as the Golden Mile, which is being transformed into a vibrant tech and residential hub. The current 2 trains an hour is not acceptable for an area that is being transformed at the moment, and the West London Orbital will benefit the area well, with a high frequency of trains. The West London Orbital would then pass through and stop at Syon Lane and Isleworth, before finally terminating at Hounslow. This station is a part of the Heathrow Opportunity Area, and the West London Orbital will provide a good interchange to bus services into Hounslow Town Centre itself, and would also relieve overcrowding on the Piccadilly line between Acton and Hounslow. Now we are at the end of the line, but can there be improvements? Yes, there can. For one, Hounslow seems like an odd place to end the line at, as Feltham has far more services east towards Twickenham and west to Reading and Windsor, so it wouldn't be too much effort to extend the West London Orbital to Feltham, and maybe construct a turnback siding there. But it's worth noting that the line through Feltham is already quite busy, and only having two platforms limits the frequency of services. But I will admit, extending to Feltham will allow for easier journeys to be made to North London. Anyways, that's pretty much it, and I would say that TfL must consider this proposal seriously, as it would improve travel between the northwest and southwest of London, and relieve pressure on so many services and encourage growth. And if this next consultation is successful, or at least I think there is a consultation expected, who knows, maybe TfL may finally proceed with this. And if you did enjoy this video, please remember to like and subscribe to the channel.